welcome to the end of week 8. You're almost done. Last week, I wore my Asteroids t-shirt to kind of get us going on building RiceRocks. Since I've already worn that t-shirt once, I thought about what I should wear for kind of part 2 of RiceRocks, and Scott was feeling a little down about losing to me at blackjack and not being able to wear his tie for a lecture, so I thought I'd just show him a little sign of solidarity here and wear a tie for this final lecture. This, by the way, is a very rare occasion for me. My wife looked at me and kind of laughed when I walked out the door this morning and told me that I looked really grown up. So I'm not a big tie wearer. In this lecture, I'm going to do 3 things. I'm going to kind of show you the template we're going to provide for the second part of RiceRocks. It actually kind of gives you a full implementation of the first part. I'm going to demo the full version of RiceRocks and kind of walk you through some of the features you'll need to implement. And then the last thing is a treat. I've whipped up a really nice version of RiceRocks. And Scott and I are going to sit down and settle once and for all who is the best video game player. So stick around. So let's take a look at the program template we provided for week 8. So I've got it loaded here in Code Sculptor. This is a full implementation of what you needed to do for the spaceship in week 7. So if you're not really confident in your code for spaceship and you want to kind of maybe start fresh, take a look at our program template and you can work from there. We have a full implementation of both the spaceship class and all of its methods, as well as a nice implementation of the sprite class and all of its methods. The other thing is we've added in one feature that we'd like your final game to have, but we didn't want you to actually have to worry about implementing. We added in a splash screen. So this is an implementation of your week 7 mini project with the splash screen on top. And so all we have is basically a key handler, a mouse handler that if you click in here, it dismisses the splash screen. Whether the splash screen is drawn or not is controlled by a global variable started that you'll need to manipulate, because in the part 2, we're going to want you to actually throw the splash screen back up if the game is over, if you've exhausted all the lives. So spend a little time looking at our program template. I think it's a good way to kind of recover if you've kind of had a little bit of an issue in doing week 7, and I think you can actually move on through and do week 8 also. Let me go on now and I'll demo the full implementation of RiceRocks, and you can kind of see what a working version would look like. So let's take a quick look at my implementation of RiceRocks. This is the full version. Hit run, and it throws up a frame, and the frame has in the middle RiceRocks. Our splash screen has some UI. The number of lives starts out at 3. The score starts at 0. I click start, and a couple of things happen. The first thing is we notice rocks are spawning. They're spawning at 1 a second. There's a max of 12 rocks that we can have going at any one time. The rocks have a random position. They have a random initial velocity. They have a random angular velocity. You also should have noticed that when I clicked this up, a soundtrack started playing. If I hit thrust, you hear a thrusting sound. If I fire a missile, you hear a fire sound and you hear the missile explode. So an important thing to note about this is that there's sound, and the sound are provided by MP3 files that I give you. The problem is that MP3 is only supported by both Safari and Chrome. It's not supported by Firefox. How are we going to deal with this? Because we need to be able to peer assess, I'm going to ask you to use Chrome or Safari for this project. You could think about converting it into a format that Firefox would use, but then how would your peers assess your project? So please, just download Chrome. It's easy. Use it. It'll make everybody's life easier. What else do we have? Well, we have missiles. So I can actually hit the space bar and fire lots of missiles. Some things to notice about the missiles are they actually have a lifespan. So the missile has an age and a lifespan. When the age is greater than the lifespan, the missile disappears. So there's no cap on the number of missiles. There's a time cap on how long they live. What else do we have? I think this is one interesting thing. You notice that whenever I hit an asteroid, the asteroid actually explodes. So we talked about this in the last lecture, that there's an optional thing you can do. You can actually add explosions to your game. It really adds to the visual appeal of the game. It's not that difficult. I would make it the last thing that you do so you get the rest of the basic project done. But I think it's really kind of adds a really nice feel to the game. What's the hardest thing you're going to do on this project? It's going to be managing the groups of rocks and the groups of missiles. You're going to have to go through and figure out when a rock hits a missile and when a ship hits a rock. So notice here, if a ship runs into this, I lose a life, and a little explosion spawns. Another one. So you're going to have to go through and do some collisions. And it's not too hard. Scott has 2 videos that talk about how to do this using sets. Take a look at them. I think you'll find it's fairly easy. The last thing to notice here is if I actually run into a 3rd rock, my lives are exhausted. I go back to the splash screen. All the rocks are no longer there. When I'm ready to start a new game, I click run, and we're off. So this is a version of RiceRocks. I think you'll find it's not that hard to build. It's great fun to play, and take a crack at it. I think you can do it. I'll be monitoring the forums. We'll have lots of help available to get you through this. So hang around. We have one more fun thing that I want to show you. Okay, I promised you a special treat to end class on. So I was still kind of stinging from losing to Scott at Pong, so I thought, we better have another rematch here for Supreme Video Game Mastery. So I sat down and whipped up a 2-player version of RiceRocks. Now, first I'm going to have to give Scott a props here. When I first wrote a version of RiceRocks, Scott kind of looked at it and was like, ugh. And so he went through and built a very nicely structured object-oriented version of it with a very nice ship class. And so when I built the 2-player version, it was actually quite easy. It took me about 30 minutes. And the only thing I had to do was just make 2 instances of the ship class, and I have 90% of the game built. So Scott, I'll give you a few props there.
That means you should listen to my lectures more than his when you go back and look at him again.
So I want this to actually mean something. So the stakes for this final version are going to be the following. Scott wins 2 out of 3 matches to 10. I'll wear a tie for a week. But
you don't understand how unprecedented that would be.
But if I win 2 out of 3, Scott can't make fun of my OO code for a week.
Which also might be unprecedented.
All right, Scott, fire it up and let's go.
Right.
Let's do it here. Okay, wait, before we start, see, look at this. It says Joe and it says Scott. See how nicely I built this up here? I got a J on my ship and an S on your ship. I'm such a pro programmer.
All right, Joe. Tell yourself whatever you want.
Prepare to die. Ah, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, God. Yeah, there he goes. Ah, you're dead now. Ah, yes. 10. That's 3.
I got 3 points.
You got 3. You got 3 points. I'll go easy this time, Scott, so you'll have a little chance here. I'll just taunt you for a while. I'll hide over here in the corner where you can't get me. No! Oh, shoot. 5. 5.
Is that the most I've ever gotten?
It could be. No. Scott doesn't understand modular arithmetic very well, so that's his problem. All right, Scott.
All right, now you're gonna play
no
real.
mercy this time. Let's go. No! Ah! He's on my tail. No!
I think that's 2 out of 3 I won, isn't it?
That's humiliating. All right, I'll be a man of my word here. I guess I'll be wearing a tie for a while. That was unfair. You started out that last game facing right on top of me.
Hey, it's not my fault you weren't paying attention.
All right.